The night sky above the Canadian Rockies shimmered with stars as Marcus Chen tended his small campfire. The former Special Forces soldier liked being alone in the wild. It reminded him of simpler times, before he had seen what humans were capable of doing to each other. The wilderness was the only place that still felt honest. But that illusion shattered the moment a strange light streaked across the sky. At first, he thought it was a shooting star, until it halted midair, glowing brighter, swelling like a second sun. The wind picked up sharply, whispering through the pines in a language that raised the hairs on his neck. Marcus stood, tension flaring, his hand closing around the hilt of his knife. "What the hell?" he muttered, as a green beam lanced down from the heavens and wrapped around him like liquid fire. His limbs locked, his breath caught. He couldn't move. All he could do was watch as the earth vanished beneath him. When he awoke, pain bloomed behind his eyes. Cold metal pressed against his back, and alien clicking echoed around him. A voice, grinding and inhuman, stated, "Subject appears conscious." Blinking, Marcus found himself staring into the eyes of nightmares. Three towering reptilian beings, their scales reflecting oily rainbows, claws twitching as they studied him like a specimen under glass. One prodded him with a humming rod and muttered, "Minimal defenses. No claws, no fangs." Another peered at a hovering screen and remarked, "These creatures claim to slay dragons in their myths. This one appears unremarkable." The third, adorned with gold-marked scales, hissed thoughtfully, "They control their world, not through strength, through adaptability, strategy, deception." Marcus kept still, measuring his captors. They'd studied Earth. They thought they understood humanity. They didn't. He wasn't just a man. He was a weapon forged by war. The lead alien tapped a console. 7 draconid species in the arena. Our viewers crave something new. This human may entertain them. A smaller alien snorted. "It will die in seconds." "Exactly," the leader hissed. "But how it dies, that is the curiosity." More humans arrived in stasis tubes, a woman in hiking gear, an old man in fishing clothes. Locals, bystanders, they were collateral. The aliens barely looked at them. "Process these. Send this one," it pointed at Marcus, "to the Draconid pen. Let's see if their legends hold any truth." A sting, darkness, then impact. Marcus hit the floor of the arena hard, air knocked from his lungs. He crouched, alert, pain dulled by adrenaline. Around him, shadows shifted in the dim red light. The chamber was enormous, steel walls, a ceiling high above, and a humid, oppressive heat. A low growl rumbled beneath his feet. Something moved. He darted toward a crack in the wall as a monstrous black dragon lunged, jaws snapping where he had been a second earlier. Its scales gleamed like obsidian. Embedded in its spine was a pulsing device, alien tech, controlled, weaponized. As Marcus watched from his crevice, 2 more shapes emerged. One, a serpent-like creature with iridescent scales that crawled along the ceiling like gravity meant nothing. The other, massive and bronze, folded its wings and simply watched, eyes like molten gold studying Marcus with eerie calm. The black one, he named it Onyx, stalked the pit, tail lashing. The snake, Sapphire, slithered silently. The bronze dragon, Ember, stood apart, not aggressive but aware, intelligent. Marcus knew predators. These weren't beasts. They were thinkers, trapped just like him. He rationed water from a leak in the wall, mapped the pit, observed. Days passed. Each movement was calculated. Ember approached slowly each day, showing neither threat nor fear. Marcus recognized patterns, communications through growls and body posture. On the 4th day, Ember dragged a symbol into the dirt. A triangle, then a broken one beside it. A message, a warning, or maybe a proposition. The aliens thought Marcus was the prey, but they didn't know him. They didn't know what he had survived, what he could become when pushed. And they didn't know that dragons, real dragons, might just prefer an alliance to extinction. They had thrown a human into the arena expecting a sacrifice. Instead, they might have just created a rebellion. Vexori raided her city and enslaved her people. She had spent years deciphering the languages of her captors, storing away knowledge in silence, waiting for the right moment. Sapphire, it turned out, had once led a colony beneath the oceans of her aquatic world, her species renowned for their ability to manipulate electromagnetic fields, something the Vexori had cruelly suppressed through the implants. As for Onyx, Marcus discovered the source of his rage. The Vexori had slaughtered his entire clan when he resisted their attempts to capture his planet. He had fought them alone for 3 days before finally being overwhelmed. Marcus listened to their stories with a quiet fury growing in his chest. They had all lost everything. So had he. That made them family in a way no words could express. He pieced together a strategy over the next 2 days, working closely with Ember to translate what they found in the stolen data. The ship housed a hangar bay with several Scout-class vessels, each equipped for atmospheric entry and faster-than-light travel. If they could reach it, they had a chance to escape, and maybe even fight back. But the bay was heavily guarded, monitored by advanced surveillance, and patrolled by elite Vexori enforcers. It was a fortress, unless... Marcus found a maintenance conduit that ran directly beneath the hangar floor, small enough for him, too narrow for the dragons, but large enough to carry an explosive payload. "I'll go first," he told them, laying out the plan in gestures and short phrases. "Plant charges. Disable shield grid. You attack when the lights fail." Ember's eyes gleamed with approval, Sapphire coiled tighter in anticipation, and Onyx let out a low, guttural snarl that Marcus took as a very enthusiastic yes. That night, Marcus crawled through the dark, steaming guts of the Vexori ship, carrying scavenged explosives in a stolen pack. His body ached from exhaustion, but his mind was razor-sharp, locked in the kind of focus he hadn't felt since his Black Ops days. Every vibration, every echo of alien boots above him made his breath still and his fingers tighten. He reached the junction beneath the hangar and rigged the charges. When the last detonator was in place, he whispered into the stolen communicator, "Ready." Ember responded with a soft growl through the linked channel. Marcus counted down silently. 3, 2, 1. The explosion rocked the ship. The floor above him cracked and collapsed. Alarms screamed. The lights died. And through the fire and smoke, the dragons came. Ember burst through the shattered ceiling like a living comet, fire roaring from her mouth. Sapphire darted through the wreckage like lightning given form, frying systems with a single touch of her glowing coils. Onyx smashed into armored units with primal fury, sending Vexori bodies flying like broken toys. Marcus climbed into the chaos above, grabbed a plasma rifle from a fallen guard, and joined the fight. Within minutes, the hangar was theirs. As Ember secured the largest scout ship, Marcus sprinted to the control terminal and initiated the launch sequence. Emergency doors groaned as they tried to seal them in, but Sapphire surged forward, using her body like a blade to jam the mechanism. The ship's engines roared to life. "We're not done yet," Marcus muttered, eyes fixed on the control panel. Time to give the Vexori a taste of their own fear. Before they launched, Marcus uploaded a virus into the ship's system using the stolen tablet, something Ember had helped him craft, cobbled together from Vexori tech and ancient draconic symbols, that Ember believed could confuse the ship's AI. "It'll release every captive species on board," he told her. "Let's see how the Vexori handle thousands of angry prisoners." Ember responded with a proud snort. As the scout ship tore free from the hangar, flame trailing from its exhaust and 3 dragons clinging to its hull like vengeful gods, Marcus looked back one last time. The Vexori flagship was burning from within. The real war had begun, and the universe was about to learn a lesson long forgotten. Humans may be fragile, but when cornered, they don't break. They bite. The arena was dead quiet. Thousands of Vexori watched in stunned silence as Marcus stood amid the twitching remains of their prized warriors. Blood, some green, some black, some glowing, streaked his torn uniform. He wasn't unscathed, but he stood tall, chest rising with controlled breaths, eyes locked on the high balcony where Zexstar and the ship's commander sat. Slowly, deliberately, Marcus raised one bloodied hand and pointed at them. It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. High above, the commander's tendrils trembled with fury. "End this," he snapped. "Terminate him." But the crowd had already begun to shift. Whispers rippled through the seats. Not fear, fascination, respect, the alien equivalent of awe. For all their arrogance, the Vexori were addicted to spectacle, and Marcus had delivered more than a fight. He had put on a masterclass in controlled chaos. Killing him now would look weak. Zextar's jaw tightened. "Bring in the Draconids," he growled. "Let's see if loyalty truly runs both ways." Far below, 3 doors began to open on the opposite side of the arena. Ember emerged first, eyes blazing, muscles tensed. Sapphire slid forward, her lithe body glowing with electric anticipation. Onyx came last, his roar shaking the very walls. But they didn't attack Marcus. They circled him protectively, forming a triangle around their human ally. The message was clear. He was one of them. This was not in the projections," muttered the ship's commander, backing away from the viewing platform. Marcus looked up at the crowd and raised both arms. "You want a show?" he shouted. The Vexori translation system picked up his voice and broadcast it. "Then watch what happens when you threaten a soldier's family." The dragons roared in unison, shaking the arena structure. Ember blasted a stream of fire into the stands, not to kill, but to scatter the crowd. Panic exploded in the tiers as viewers fled for safety. Zexstar shouted orders, but his guards were already overwhelmed, both by the stampede and by the chaos Marcus had unleashed in the lower decks. The released prisoners, now armed with stolen Vexori weapons, were making their way upward, led by a group of insectoid warriors and aquatic soldiers Marcus had freed earlier. "Time to go," Marcus muttered. He pointed to the overhead glass of the observation chamber. Ember nodded. With a leap that defied her size, she soared upward, shattering the barrier with a single strike. Marcus followed, climbing through the broken structure into the stunned faces of the command crew. Onyx and Sapphire burst through moments later, smoke and flame rolling behind them. The ship's commander tried to flee, but Onyx pinned him with one massive claw. "You wanted entertainment," Marcus said, grabbing Zexstar by the front of his armor. "Let's see how you like being the main event." He activated the transmission system on Zexstar's own control panel, broadcasting across the ship. The image of the captured commander, trembling, defeated, appeared on every screen. "This ship belongs to the prisoners now," Marcus declared. "We're done being your amusement." The ship erupted into chaos, not the kind the Vexori had orchestrated for ratings, but real, irreversible upheaval. Control rooms were stormed. Cells were opened. Entire species who had spent years in chains now found themselves with a chance at vengeance or freedom. In the command center, Marcus turned to the dragons. "Let's finish this." Ember growled in agreement, flames already licking the edges of her mouth. Onyx lashed his tail. Sapphire's body shimmered with blue fire. Together they advanced, monsters to some, heroes to others. But in that moment, they were something far more powerful. Free. Back home, but this time they came as guardians. The scout ship touched down on a secure landing pad, surrounded by tanks, armed soldiers, and hastily assembled scientists. The humans approached cautiously, weapons raised, uncertain what to expect. The hatch opened with a hiss. Marcus stepped out first, hands raised in peace. He wore scavenged armor pieces that bore symbols from half a dozen alien species. Behind him, the dragons emerged, Ember regal and calm, Sapphire gliding with fluid grace, and Onyx looming like a living shadow, his fiery eyes scanning every threat. The assembled military forces didn't know whether to shoot, run, or kneel. General Wilson stepped forward, face tight with disbelief. "You're a long way from Kandahar, son." Marcus offered a small smile. "Yeah, sir, and the war's a lot bigger than we thought." Behind them, Ember extended one wing in a surprisingly respectful gesture. "We greet your kind in peace," she said, her voice deep and resonant, spoken in clear English that echoed across the landing pad. Silence followed. Then Wilson spoke. "God help us. The dragons talk." "Dragons, aliens, friends," Marcus said. "Call them what you want. But they're not our enemies. The real threat's still out there." Over the next days, emergency summits were held. Leaders across the globe gathered in secret as Marcus presented the evidence. Vixori records, images of captured species, schematics of their empire, and most importantly, a message of warning and alliance. Humanity stood at the threshold of a new era. The Liberation Fleet would not force Earth to act, but the offer was clear. Join them, or be caught unaware when the collectors returned. In a world often divided by borders and beliefs, Marcus's story became the spark of unity. A soldier lost to war had returned, with monsters once feared in legend, monsters who had become heroes. And in orbit, 3 great ships waited, carrying hundreds of voices ready to speak with Earth, not as conquerors, but as survivors. Because sometimes the monsters weren't what we feared, sometimes they were what we needed.